Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? It is Jason Harris here, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Strategy Mob. I have no idea why every time I say that, I lower my voice. I guess because it just sounds cool. I'm not sure, right? Hey guys, for everyone out there that's listening and watching, thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. Today, I have a very special guest. We're going to have a lot of fun. Hopefully, we don't say anything too controversial. Actually, I'll take that back. More likely, we will. I have the one, the only, the oh-so-famous Mr. Scott Brender with me. Scott, thank you for taking the time to jam with me.
Hey, Jason, I appreciate the opportunity for sure.
Hey, for everybody out there that's watching and listening, Scott, and don't know your background, kind of how you got started with the industry, I thought it'd be fun to kind of kick off this podcast with a little origin story. So, what is the automotive origin story of Scott Brender?
Yeah, well, it's that typical origin story. I think you've heard probably a million times, but family was in the car business, and this was well before my time. So I come from a long multi-generations of car lovers, enthusiasts. Great-grandfather actually owned a Chevrolet dealership back in the day, way before me. Unfortunately, I didn't get an opportunity to play in that pool, but and then I have a lot of cousins and stuff that were mechanics. And so growing up, there was always that cool hot rod laying around. My dad was in the cars. My grandfather was in the cars. And so at a young age, you could say, that I got the traditional Hot Wheel to pedal story. I was driving by age 7. I was raised up in northern Wisconsin. So back in northern Wisconsin, as soon as you could touch a pedal, you were driving something. So for us, it was, 7 years old driving tractors and hay wagons around the farm. But so got the motor niche inside of me real early. And so by age 15, I was working as a porter in a car dealership, going to school. And then when I was 18, it came down to that, hey, we're shorthanded one summer. A little bit about cars. Why don't you try to sell a few cars kind of thing happened. And then I found a niche. I was one of those kids, I guess, just from where I was raised. I didn't have a whole lot of fear. And so ultimately, a lot of the stereotypes, I guess, that salespeople would have, fearing the customer stuff, I would say some pretty crazy stuff back in the day. It would get the job done. I'd sell a few cars. 19, I was a finance manager. And then from there on, I've carried every role on the pretty much variable operation side. I never was a service manager or anything like that. But obviously, my used car background, I have the service end of it down pretty well too. So pretty much that's the spiel. That's where I came from.
So you kind of got bit by the bug, man. You just kind of got sucked into it, like a lot of us, right? Like once it's in your skin, it's like, how do you get it out, right? Like it's just it is. It's so funny. I get asked a lot, like, why don't I kind of expand our marketing efforts and our agency efforts out to other verticals? And honestly, I just don't think there are many other verticals that are as fun. Look, our entire industry is built on 3-letter words and 3-letter acronyms and 4-letter words. I could never trade it in, for anything else out there. Now, look, we had a chance to connect on LinkedIn, which I've made some amazing relationships on LinkedIn. It's been awesome. I've been actively on the platform for about 5 years. It's just, I've seen the platform evolve, and most recently, me and you had the chance to connect over a post that I put out there that I may have kind of know that I was going to get some heat for. And you know what, though? It was cool to see how many people did kind of lean into the conversation. And then it was interesting to see how many people literally took personal offense, like I was like I literally wrote the post for them individually. So Scott, kind of tell me, how'd you find the post? What were your first thoughts? And then we'll just kind of get into the conversation.
So, obviously I follow your posts, but this topic in general, this dealerships in general today, and having been through so many different transitions and trends in car dealerships, I think anytime you talk about changing something that's basically a 100-year-old institution and say, hey, listen, these roles are no longer necessary, or I don't really see the point in these roles, you're going to hurt some feelings, because you're not just talking to one or two individuals, unfortunately, but you're talking to hundreds, thousands of people in this industry that have that title and that are probably think that they are entitled, that they have that title. So entitlement becomes a huge issue, and all of a sudden, the gloves are going to come off, and these guys are going to, the ones that do. I didn't personally take it from that perspective in any way, shape, or form, because I just think the car industry as well, and really dealership, it's evolving. And I think if you fail to see that, that's the issue. And I think that's really what the conversation was. It wasn't, hey, I want to X all managers out of the car dealerships.
even though a lot of people did take it that way. A lot of people thought that I literally had my pitchfork in one hand and then my torch in the other, and I was ready to burn this baby down to the ground. But look, you've been in the business long enough to see what I have seen, and you've been in it longer than I have, right? You've seen how the industry's evolved. You've seen how the customer's involved. You see the demand that is put on our staff and our salespeople. Like our salespeople, I mean, I think of they're like communication experts. Like they have to be willing to have a communication in 7 different formats just so they can connect to the customer. It's not enough that they can just pick up a phone and shake a hand. It's like they got to know everything, right? And it's the used car manager. I mean, just look, the margins that have shrunk and shrunk and shrunk over the years. It has put so much demand onto that used car manager where they have to be, that Wall Street stockbroker. They got to be that marketing guru. They have to be on top of the merchandising in ways that we've never had. Look, I remember when I was at the dealership, my first used car job was taking pictures for the Auto Trader catalog, and then I had to write the description. Okay, so I had to write like a whole bunch of 3-letter acronyms, and everybody was supposed to know what those 3-letter acronyms meant. ABS, alloy, like you just small little words to fit as much spot as you can. And you only had to take one picture. That was it. One picture, a little bit of description, that's all you had to do. Now, the customer's expectation is that you take 30 pictures, you record a video about the thing, and you write a two paragraph long beautiful description of how amazing this car is. Like, it's just changed so much. So let's start there. I want to kind of get your thoughts on just like how demanding is that position right now for one individual to handle.
So I think that's a great question, Jason. And to be honest with you, I personally feel that position is no longer a one person job. It's virtually impossible. I've got personal friends in the markets here that are trying to do that job as a used car director, in which they're trying to manage multiple stores. And I'm gonna be the first to tell you, in my roles with my business, I've purchased for multiple dealers that have multiple stores, and I've tried to put that role on personally. And I can tell you personally, it's impossible. When you talk about, everything's so time sensitive in the car business right now, from the second you purchase the car to how long it takes to get at your dealership, how long it takes for that car to be reconditioned, how long does it take for that car to hit the front line, and so forth. And so it's so time sensitive because, a lot of these dealerships, we're on a 60-day turn. Your first 30 days in some cases can be eaten up. You got 30 days to sell this car, which makes it virtually even more impossible in some cases. And this really managing by numbers is what I call it, is somewhat antiquated in a sense now, because we talk about, we'll throw the names out that no one likes to hear, the CarMaxes, Carvanas, the Zoo, the Vrooms, and so forth. Well, they're data mining companies. And what's important for dealers to understand why that data is so important. You go into an average dealership, you go to that used car manager and you ask them, what's your hottest selling used car? Yeah, that's exactly right. You get dead silence. I mean, Whereas if you go into a director of a CarMax store and say, what's your hottest selling model? He's going to tell you it's a 2017 Chevy Equinox LT with LT3 package, all-wheel drive. And you're like, how the hell does he know that? Well, they collect data and they use that data. And even go further, these are national companies. It's not a dealer group. And
no, they're not.
Take it from your hometown, Boise, Idaho. It's not a dealer group in Boise, right? Who's got 4 or 5 dealerships. No, these guys are tracking this across the nation. So they, these used car managers, well, how do these big groups pay so much for their inventory or whatever the case may be? That's another big question. They're paying too much for cars. No, they're not. They've got it drained exactly to where that car needs to go to sell for the price in which they paid for it.
Oh yeah, look, they're tracking market trends, not just locally or regionally, but nationally. I mean, they know that this 3,500 pickup may cost this much in this small town in Pennsylvania on the East Coast, but if I can move that piece of inventory to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I can do it within less than 2 weeks based on the market trends that have shown historically, I'm going to increase. That is the level of data that these guys are dealing with. I mean, they know it down to the T. So then I asked the dealer, like an individual dealer or rooftop or even a small group, like how do you combat that? I almost kind of think, oh man, I'm gonna get screwed for this one too. And Scott, when I say that in advance, it's like it's coming. Like, does the used car department really need to exist? Or does it not just need to get folded into our just literally, why do we have this separation between new car and used cars? Like, think of it from an operations perspective. It's like, the used car managers focus on selling used cars. New car managers focus on new cars. So there's this separation there. They don't want to necessarily connect or communicate with each other, right? Like, is it just not vehicle operations? What do you think?
So again, I love that question because I'm right with you. Here, major corporations, you see these positions advertised all the time. A role, say acquisition or purchasing, whatever that is. A jean manufacturer needs to purchase X amount of cotton from wherever. Okay, so they have a purchasing department, a guy who's educated in where the market is in cotton, where to buy cotton, where to ship cotton in from, how to process the cotton, whatever the case may be. And that's why you have, you make the world's best jeans or whatever the case it may be. We try to combine roles that just don't make any sense anymore in the car business. And here I'll even go back, and I say this all the time and people can fight me with it all day long. The role of the salesperson has changed. The role of the salesperson used to be back when I started in the business back in the mid 80s. Okay. The role of the salesperson was to provide information because the customers didn't have the internet.
That's
didn't
right.
exist when I got in the car business.
You had to talk to somebody.
Our role was to provide that customer who came in with that product knowledge to go and we were the people that told them, hey, you got 6 kids, you're looking for a minivan. This is a minivan for you, and this is why. And we would tell them all the features and benefits. I'd go so far as the road to the sale, throw it away.
Oh,
That's
man.
going to make a lot of people mad.
Scott, we're going to get burned. We're going to get all right. I can hear the people lining up outside my door right now that want to torch my place. No, I know.
I'm telling you, I watched a video of a dealer. I'm not even going to say his name as much as I want to, but I watched a video on LinkedIn where a guy was having a group of trainees recite the role to the sale, and I literally threw up in the back of my mouth. I know that sounds horrible, but listen, these customers come in knowing more than our salespeople do about simple product knowledge.
You know what? That's a really good point. So I want to elaborate a little bit on that because, I agree with you. I'm all the way down to actually the sales position needs to be split up because there's 2 parts to the sales role now. There's the actual product knowledge, which I think both me and you agree, majority of the salespeople we meet out there don't know their product. And neither do they seem to want to know their product as well as I honestly find when I hear that saying, the customer knows more about the product than my salespeople do, but then there's almost kind of like a smile with it. How is that acceptable? Like, I just don't even understand that, because in no other vertical, in no other industry, would we actually be okay with the fact that the customer knows more about the product than our sales professionals do, right? So like, I'm thinking it's almost like two roles. There's like the transactional part of it, then there's the actual product knowledge of it, you know? Like, I just got into a Lincoln Navigator the other day. I mean, holy crap. There's enough technology in there to make me go a little cross-eyed, let alone anybody else. Sorry, go ahead. You had something to say.
In Apple, you've got sales and you got a genius. And what is the purpose of that genius? Once you buy that Apple phone, the genius is the one who's going to teach you how to use it, because it's so darn complicated that you need a genius to teach you. And it's the same thing in the car business. Listen, this is one role I don't understand. I'll never understand. And honestly, why aren't our BDCs staffed with our best salespeople?
Look, I'm with you on that.
That's where the questions are being answered.
That's exactly, and that's also where the relationship is starting.
Right.
You know, so
once they get to the dealership, it's confirmation, test drive, and buy.
It 100% is, right? So like,
it's no longer that guy doesn't. Product knowledge portion of the sales is done. Most of the negotiating has already been done, because if he didn't get any numbers, he wouldn't be sitting in your dealership to begin with. You know, getting off the used car manager. And that's what this bothers me, is the whole demographics of variable operations at car dealerships needs to be relooked at. Look at Carvana. Their call center is based out of Arizona. So a guy in New York is calling Arizona for product knowledge on a car that's sitting in Florida. How does that work? And the guy agrees to buy that car in Florida, and they ship it up to him in New York. And the whole transaction happened through Arizona. How does that make sense? So I literally stopped by a dealership, a good friend of mine the other day, had to do some business with him. And he was out front telling me, you know, we got 12 sales guys, but we need to go to 20. And I was like,
but it hasn't always been our default. Like, that's our default answer. Like when we don't think we're getting enough efficiency out of our processes, instead of actually working back towards a process, we decide to throw more bodies at the situation.
Which is even insane. It's even insane to me today to hear this, because, you know, how many transactions does one Carvana operator handle in any given month? I mean, that's what I think about. I mean, how many cars did that guy actually sell? 100? 50? They sell 40,000 cars a month. That's a lot of transactions. How many call reps do you think they have? You think they have 400 car reps in one room, or even that 200, so that, you know, 200 people can sell 40,000 cars. That's however many cars a piece. You think they use that kind of strategy in how they run their operation? But as car dealers, we still use that old strategy. Oh, if we want to sell 200 cars, we need 20 salespeople each doing 10 cars a piece. Okay, that's great math. Makes perfect sense. And 9 times out of 10, you pull up to any dealership, and what are these guys doing? They're
just literally sitting out the window. They're fogging up the window, going, "Gonna give me one today."
And then look at their managers. What are any managers doing? If you really want to hurt some feelings, you know, how much training is going on in the dealership? I mean, it's just nuts.
It is crazy. But so then let's back that up a little bit. Let's figure out why. Like, why? Like, every other vertical has changed, has adapted to change, has embraced change, has changed, you know, because the consumer has changed, because the industry has changed, and yet for some reason we seem to hold on to this vision. I don't know, the good old days, and we want to kind of, you know, I don't even know what the hell I want to call it. It's just like we want to hold on to this. Is it because it's comfortable? Is that what it is? Is it because we're comfortable and we don't want to change? Like, I'm trying to figure it out, man. What do you think?
So I like using the analogy, and I think it's a great one, and I think it answers this question, at least to if we don't change, what's our future going to look like? Okay, and I like to bring up Toys R Us. You know, Toys R Us management believed that people wanted to come, touch, feel, and play with toys. And you'll see this comment within your thread of people saying, people still like to buy from people. I love it. That's why Amazon's around, right? Because people like to buy from people. All right. But the same thing, Toys R Us thought that people wanted to come to these 50,000 square foot playhouses of fun, right? This is where people wanted to come, touch, feel the toys, bring their screaming, hollering kid, and buy the latest, newest toy that was probably out of stock. But this is where people wanted, this is what they wanted to do. They literally thought parents wanted to take their kids to Toys R Us, which if you were to ask any parent at that time, I can promise you, we did not want to take our kids.
It's the worst thing in the world. Like we
would rather, hey, I saw this on TV and cartoons this morning, Daddy. Can we buy it? Amazon, where were you back then in the 80s? I needed you.
Oh, Scott, like I have 3 kids under the age of 9. Okay, like I take them to a store. All right, it's like a black ops mission. Okay, it's like, all right, here's where we're going. All right, we're mapping this thing out. Here's our strategical points. Here's our exit route. Okay, once I run the green smoke, we're out. Like, and it's just like I literally have to prep them for this, because otherwise, if I don't go in prepped, man, it's going to be
people
like
out of the Star Wars section. We'll never get out of the store.
Things are going to be flying all over the place and stuff like that. Like I the fact of the matter is, I'll never go into another grocery store. I now in the last 6 months, I've gotten to the point now where I don't ever have to go to another grocery store, and I don't understand why I never did in the first place. So like the consumer is changing, and I just feel like, look, I'm not saying that I have the right answer, and I'm pretty sure you're not saying it either. But I think the bottom line is we got to have the freaking conversation.
Oh, but you got to look at what's happening in America, in retail in general, and brick and mortar in general. And here, on that Toys R Us thing, the biggest thing is, Toys R Us outsourced their online sales to Amazon. That's what happened. And Amazon collected the data, got really smart about the toy business, and now look who has the toy business and where's Toys R Us. Go a little bit further to brick and mortar. Our United States mall, where is it? When's the last time you walked into the mall to buy that, whatever it is that you wanted to buy? I can tell you, I have not purchased a clothing of any type in any retail store probably within the last 7 or 8 years. I have not been into it. Why? Because Amazon, I can buy it. If I don't like it, I can send it back for free. Why would I want to go to a retail? If it doesn't fit, oh, well, I'll just, stop by UPS on my way home and boom, I'm done.
100%. And you know what, though? I think you nailed it right there. It's like, why would someone want to come into a brick and mortar? You know what I mean? Like, look, there are some brick and mortars that I do enjoy going to.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like I enjoy, I have a couple clothing stores that I thoroughly, when I need another vest or another shirt or something like that, I thoroughly enjoy going to this brick and mortar place because of that experience I get. So I feel like, it's one part of the conversation needs to be, okay, dealership management team, let's get all together. Let's have the conversation. What does it look like for us to go online? And then the second part is we actually literally have to ask ourselves questions like, why? Why would someone want to come see us? What do we do differently that makes them want to come to us? What are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Well, it's prime example. Go back to Apple iPhone. That thing comes out. It's announced 3 months in advance pre-sale. Okay, so pre-sale could be 100,000 units or whatever the case may be. Once you get that sent to your home, you're immediately sending up a appointment with your genius. It's not like you don't like going to the Apple store. Matter of fact, you love going to the Apple store when you actually see a service being provided, which is teaching me how to use this new phone.
So there we go.
It becomes a service. Well, back when I started in the car business, we always said it's the greatest stage period, because as a salesperson, we were taught to put on a show. The steps that we were taught, the road to the sale was that show. That was our script. And we used the transitions from, part 1 of the show to part 2 of the show to part 3 to the store. They're called, meet, greet, is qualify. It was test drive. It was, the whole 9 yards. That was our show. And we were taught to put on that performance. Well, now our performance has been cut to the Reader's Digest version.
Oh, 100%. We're just straight up just about the transaction.
Yes,
let's go from the meet and greet all the way to just
they get into the
driving the car away.
Right. They get to the dealership. It's confirmation time. Where's the car? It's exactly what you said it was. I already have my price. How can I get into the finance office? And so to go back to a question you asked and we didn't answer, I think is, why is this so hard to change? Well, I think it can be divided into two pieces. One is the new car dealership, new car franchises versus used car independent dealerships. Because you see the used car independents, CarMax obviously has been the number one used car independent dealer since the beginning of time. I mean, what are they on 10, 12, 15 years of being number one? And now you've got another player in the game called Carvana who's taken and they're selling, 40,000 on their way to, as we all know, 2 million is their yearly number that they have projected, which is huge. What does 2 million sales taken away from that franchise dealer does? Ask yourself this question, and I am going to get murdered right now.
Okay, do it.
Take away the franchise laws. What happens to the new car dealer if there were not this shield of protection, which is called franchise laws? What manufacturer, because understand the manufacturer pays that dealer to sell that car. There's a lot of money, dealer incentive, rebate, volume incentives, whatever there is, there's a lot of money that flows that dealer for the sale of that new car for being a franchisee. But of all the manufacturers, and here, cut me off at the legs. Let's talk about Tesla. Okay. Let's cut it off at the legs. How can they put out the Model 3? And I think the number was some ridiculous number, like 60%, 65% of the sales of the Model 3 all happened online. A brand new manufacturer, all happened online. So when you look at that shield of protection, take it away, what manufacturer wouldn't want to go to a direct sale model?
Oh, no, look, I'm with you. In fact, we know for a fact there are several manufacturers that are testing this and have already executed in some little
they're using
small
the shield
way,
of
right?
Well, it's
and they're like, we're trying stuff out. We're just trying stuff out. And they're using the shield of subscription models. So we're just trying. We know what they're really doing. They're testing out they're testing the waters of a direct model.
Yeah,
but I wonder though, and then this is the question I have for you, are we driving the customer to such an online experience because our in-dealership experience was so crap? You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if we can kind of find that middle ground where it's like the customer wants to interact and engage with us online. Hell, we'll do that. But if they want to spend a few hours in having this fun, entertaining, or luxurious experience, then we need to generate that for them. No different than, like you said, the Apple Store, right? Like, what's funny? I actually do have a Genius that I do use. A few years ago, I ordered like a big, video editing, like Mac Pro, right? And, I didn't know what the hell I was ordering. So I reached out to them and said, look, this is what our company does. We're editing these. I need 6 of these units, And I got connected with this Genius. I actually went into the store, met with the person, showed me the product. And now, it's 3 years later, the tech's beginning to fade away a little bit. I have to reorder again. I'm reaching out to this individual person, hoping that I can come back in to schedule that insight or that in-store experience. So it's like I create that relationship with them, but it's like I'm looking forward to going in there and meeting with them. Like I'm looking forward to kind of what is new in that tech space. So like how do we? Is it a question? I guess what it is. Is it a question of our generating an online experience or spending more time developing out that in-store experience, or is it really kind of a both? What do you think?
I think this is a catch-22 answer because you got to think that a lot of these in-store experiences, a lot of these stopping points, I guess, or touch points that happen when you come into a dealership, we're all developed for margin, profit. And so here's the thing, what scares me as a dealer is, can I maintain these levels of margin and profit in all these profit centers that I have in my dealership? Just take variable operations. I mean, we all know the selling of the car is one, profit center. Then we move them into either an after sale department, which is our second profit center, to a finance department, which our third profit center. I think why a dealership's scared is because it's become so competitive through velocity pricing and things like that on used cars and things like that, the competitiveness of everybody undercutting everyone else, that we're not making the margins up front. They fear that if I go to an online format, if I make it easier for my customers to make their own decisions, they won't make a decision to decide on one of these 3 profit centers. Whereas the actual fact of that is because of COVID and because of social distancing and things like that, dealerships that did have or had started too, because you got to understand, COVID happened. I mean, we just came out of NADA. Obviously, everyone, the hot topic would have been, digital retailing, right? I mean, that was pretty much the hot topic of NADA. So you take digital retailing and everyone was just kind of like, I don't know if I need this. I don't know if I want to do it. I don't see the value in it. You had a lot of questions being asked. And then all of a sudden COVID happens. And everyone got thrust into, oh my God, I got to do something today. I'm shut down. I can't do nothing. And we're trying to answer all these questions. And in a matter of 3 or 4 months, a lot of dealerships have adapted to a digital retailing thing. Now, are they committed to it? I don't know. I mean,
that is the big question. Yeah.
But some of that data shows that customers will make a decision on that product on their own, on those 3 profit centers, that we don't have to fear them. Like, okay, I stripped, I got the margin stripped out on the price of this car. So if this guy buys it, I'm losing money. And it's the same reason why we want to spin this all the way back around, why used car department has to change. Because I think when you're acquisition, everyone knows, when you acquire a vehicle, that's when you make your profit.
100%.
And so one person trying to acquire however many cars your dealership needs per month to support your sales objective, whatever that may be, how can one person have his pulse on every single acquisition outlet that there is out there? The easy way is the auction, but the auction comes with some pains. You've got auction fees and shipping and arbitration and issues and poor condition reports. How we can go on that for another whole podcast.
That literally could be an entire podcast.
We've touched on so many different areas today. This is probably a hodgepodge or whatever, but hey, I think that's why this whole role of used car manager needs to turn into more of an individual purchasing, especially dealer.
It needs to be the entire dealership effort, right? It really does. Look, the service manager needs to own the reconditioning of the cars, right? Means the service manager needs to have ownership of those cars. All right, the service department has to stop looking at the used car department as just another client, but actually take some ownership of okay, there are 70 or 110 cars on my lot that the service department owns from a reconditioning perspective, right? So I think that's one that has to happen, right? Then to your point, it is way too much to be buying right now. It's not only just identifying market trends and finding the right outlets where you can actually buy them, but then I even have some dealerships that are going as far as calculating out a rent factor on each parking spot that the dealership has, and true acquisition of advertising on against every single vehicle. There's a lot of expense that goes into that. So it's one person's responsibility just to manage the multi-million-dollar portfolio that is the inventory. Then you got the merchandising of it. We were talking about that earlier, right? The merchandising is the consumer demands more today than they've ever had before. You got 2 or 3 pictures of the car online, it doesn't exist. It was funny.
Or no picture at all.
Okay, I was just about to say that. So, look, I had a handful of people that really took that post that I did out there very personally. So I decided I want to understand this person a little bit better, right? So I decided there was definitely one that I decided to look into their role. And it is what it is. Over 20% of their inventory online didn't even have images, and had copy and paste comments for every single car.
So we talked about that entitlement, right? Most managers like myself, we worked our way from the bottom. And so our vision of entitlement, 25 years ago, ask yourself what your managers looked like 25 years ago. What level of entitlement that they had? What level of compensation did they make? Some of these managers back in the day, a GM, it wasn't shy of a $500,000 job. Obviously we figured that out really quick. That was, grossly overpaid, even though there's probably some old school guys out there that would disagree with me, but it was grossly overpaid to pay a guy $500,000 to do this job, right? It didn't need to happen. And I think what happens is when you get that tower of power, which I call that management tower in any dealership, whether
I love that name,
an
by the
actual
way.
Tower.
That's awesome. Tower of power.
It's this entitlement. So when you ask a used car manager to go take a picture, oh no, it's not my job. You ask that used car manager to write a description. Oh, that's not my job. That's the picture guy's job. You ask that used car manager to manage your reconditioning process, that he might say is his job, when realistically it should just be, if you had the benchmark set for a service manager, why does my used car manager have to micromanage my service manager, or why do they have to micromanage the inventory together?
Exactly. So why are they even wondering about it?
So while they're micromanaging inventory, I'm missing 6 or 7 leads of a customer that if I could have grabbed onto that person early, I might have had a shot at them. But instead, I don't have any pictures. I don't have a description. It's nobody's job. These guys are all being grossly overpaid, and let alone they're entitled.
So Scott, is that what you think it is? When you we're kind of talking our way through it right now, but is it kind of boiling down to the fact that we're not having these conversations, we're not making these changes to the way that we're operationally structured because of entitlement? Is that what you're saying?
It feels that way to me, because you look at any other industry and corporations out there. We're talking Fortune 500 companies, whatever. And if you see their hierarchy, it's typically, a president, a vice president, a senior director. Those are all the guys in the upper echelon. But when you get down into the actual work production lines, whether it's sales, whether it's manufacturing, you typically see a title no greater than supervisor.
That's a really good point, by the way. Very good point.
And what are they supervising? Well, they're supervising production. And so the production of the sales department is to sell more cars. We're supervising everything other than what we should be supervising. So I don't understand that separation between sales and BDC, why there's 2 departments. Because ultimately,
I'm totally with you. I've never
as a sales, that. Yeah. When I was trained as a salesperson way back in the day, in the 80s, I remember I had a sales manager. He probably is no longer alive. His name was Joseph Keel, but he had the Joseph Keel Power Hour. We had 2 hours in a phone number every day with the A section of the phone book to call every A and introduce yourself as the local dealer. Let's go back in time.
Yeah.
But our day was structured. Today, it's a sit and wait. And these salespeople, what do they do in that sit and wait? Because they don't get to do anything except for follow up on previous business. If they do that, that's a whole nother topic. We don't need to get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say we could do a whole podcast on that one.
We've had probably 6 or 7 podcasts today. But, at the end of the day, they wait for that BDC to develop that customer that's going to come into that door, and however they split those things up. But it's like, why put the customer through this multiple change process? It's just like, we do everything to make buying a car complex. Is it really that hard? Because all these other places have shown us, Carvana, I don't care what you say about them. They're selling 40,000. Oh, they're not profitable. Give them some time.
Hey, look, which dealership is when, in the first 5 or 10 years that they're running stuff,
Especially a publicly traded company. Look, most dealers, I'm sorry. Hey, high school,
exactly,
some college education. High school, some college education. So I'm no Einstein here, right? I just was good at, as a people person, it's got me to the top. Anyway, bottom line is that, a publicly traded company, they're known in the first 5 years that they're not going to cut a profit. We're not there yet with Carvana. We really aren't. And ultimately, they're still growing, but they're growing to what point? They'll get to a point of expansion in which they no longer have to spend $5 million for a vending machine. Once all the vending machines are there, then what? They've got your market. While you're sitting there, it's the same thing that happened. Same thing that happened with CarMax. I can remember it to this day. How every single dealer on the planet feared CarMax. It's never going to work. It's not possible. This, that, or the other thing. Look at them today. They're hugely profitable. Hugely profitable.
You know what? I was hoping. All right. Look. During COVID, okay, and during the times where a lot of us were shut down and stuff like that, I saw changes in our industry that happened so fast that it got me excited. I legitly got excited, for our industry, because we changed in the matter of 2 to 4 months faster than we probably had the entire previous 40 years combined, right? And I was so hoping that we were kind of heading towards that direction, which hence the reason why I kind of put out this post, because I was hoping that snowball of change wouldn't just stop at, you know, our online experience or our in-dealership experience, but really then kind of went into how our operations or the structure of our operations is also affecting the overall experience and the profitability. And, you know, the last couple of months, we kind of ran into this like false sense of, I don't know, success, where everyone feels like everyone had the last couple of months some really great months, right? And it's like all of a sudden these questions and these conversations around like, how do we make things better, all of a sudden just stopped. And I'm so annoyed by it.
Yeah, well, you know, I agree with 100% what you're saying. And here, listen, it was nothing that any dealership or management did differently. You know, you say, you know, yes, they were looking for ways to do a transaction, and they were forced to do it by their, you know, government bodies or whatever the case, to handle these transactions this way. I mean, there was so much other influence in that. I think people, it's like, you know, a turtle's a turtle, right? It's going to go one speed. Right. Well, a dealership is a turtle. If you ask, it's going to go one speed. And if you think that you're going to hurt that turtle with that hard shell, if you know, the guys that actually thought that they were doing something special, that were making all these numbers, you know, look at the environment. You know, you had no new car production. You had new cars still selling. You had volume in new cars dropping. You had dealerships. Obviously, then consumers are still consumers, you know, and they've got all this time on their hands. You know, they're sitting at home, and, you know, ultimately they still want to purchase something because that's just our nature. And cars is obviously, I got some time now. I've been thinking about it. So they went to whatever was available, and used cars was what was available. There was nothing being made in the new car side. So we're here making all these record used car numbers and sales, and we're pounding our chest. Look what we're doing, rah, rah, rah. Yep. We didn't do anything different than we always had been doing, other than maybe changing how we were, you know, initially engaging with our customers.
You know where I saw just a glimpse of hope, that I really, like, I saw it happen, and I was like, oh, maybe this is what's going to really kind of flip things, like flip it on its head, was when dealerships started realizing that they were making the same amount of money or more net profit with a third less of their staff. And then that is when I thought for sure, if we're ever going to have the conversation around how we're going to evolve the operations of a dealership, this is the time where we're going to have that conversation, when you realize you were able to do a lot with less. And I hate to say it, Scott, but it came, and now it's gone, and I just feel like I don't know, like I lost the opportunity.
We have this long-lasting standing agreement in the car business of anything that scares us just waits 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and it'll all be gone. I mean, it's been that way. It's been that way in my career. I mean, I can remember, you know, .com. You know, I can remember when NADA was nothing other than .com companies, how dealers have that website. It's like when I got into the car business, to find a computer anywhere in a car dealership was like a treasure hunt. I mean, literally, if you could find one, there typically was one in the parts room that was set up to some big, huge satellite on the roof. But I can remember even early, this kind of shows you just my nature, even early as a salesperson, and my dad had worked for IBM, so I was computer literate, and I would ask my sales manager, why don't we have computers at our desk? We have all this. Even when .com came up, you may have had one or two. You may have had one or two computers that you shared amongst somebody as we would, you know, get on and do our thing or whatever the case. And then, of course, the manufacturers started adapting more uses to it and so forth. But for the most part, it was still business as usual. Nobody wanted to adapt to this new technology. And I think that's what's sad about our business, because out of any of this type of retail business, in my personal opinion, we are, as a technological industry, we are so far advanced in what we're able to do.
100% agree.
You know, you can take motors, you can take power sports, ATVs or boats or recreational RVs even. You go work in any of those industries, which I have, so I have a little bit of knowledge about this. You try to go scan a VIN number of an RV and try to get any kind of evaluation or information on an RV, and I can tell you right now, it ain't ever going to happen. It's impossible. Floor plans, whatever. We are so advanced in the car business, but we don't even use a tenth of what's available to us to streamline and better make our business.
Yep.
And these dealerships that are complaining about margin, your personnel, your staff, how many people you have to do a job that honestly, we are far advanced. It doesn't take 4 guys to change a light bulb in a dealership anymore. I promise you, it doesn't.
And so and that really does kind of sum it up, right? Like, it doesn't really take 4 guys to screw in a light bulb. Right. But you know what? Look, I think anybody out there that's watching or listening right now have to understand that what we're saying and the passion behind how we're saying it, it comes from a place of just love. Like, this is a little bit of tough love. We have a little tough love for our industry, but you've been blessed by this industry. I've been blessed by this industry. I'm not out there to torch it to the ground. And Scott, I highly doubt you're out there to do the same. Like, we're saying this out of love, and we really want to see our industry continue to evolve and better itself. And Scott, I think just because I know it's getting towards the tail end of our time. My last kind of comment is that we're going to have to process our way to profitability. There isn't a magic wand. There's no diet pill that's out there that exists, that we're just going to have to hardcore look at our operations and really ask ourselves the tough questions and process our way to profitability so that those margins are higher. Scott, for you, kind of final thoughts before we finish off here?
Yeah, I would just add to that, I 100% am with you. I am not beating up Mr. Car Dealer. That is not me at all. I'm not beating up my industry because this industry has paid for my kids to go through college. I mean, it's put a good life out there for myself and my family. I would tell you, if you ask me, personally one-on-one, I would tell you that the car business is the greatest industry in the world, hands down. There's more opportunity available for somebody with a mere high school education like myself.
Yep.
And so I look at those things and I'm blessed. I'm not doing this for me. I'm not doing this for Mr. Dealer. To be honest with you, I'm listening to what my customer wants.
Yep.
And I'm trying to streamline and adapt our industry, not because I want to make the job easier, not that I want to see anybody lose their job. But what I'm trying to say is, Mr. Dealer, myself included, is this is what the customer wants. The customer wants a streamlined format. The customer wants a better experience. And I think we can deliver the better experience in ways that no other industry can, because, heck, there's a lot of talented people out there. A lot of people way smarter than I am. And I'm just seeing some of the software and things that have been developed over the last just couple of years, digital retailing even. I mean, I've been involved with a company with that as well. And I'm just going to tell you, there's some awesome possibilities out there if you're willing just to open your eyes a little bit, crawl out of that shell that you've been in for so long and see actually how we can streamline this business, because profitability will always be an issue for the dealer. But the best way to profitability is also looking at your process. And there's a lot of just heavy salaries and positions and that don't really need to be there because they're no longer productive. And that's just how I feel about it.
100%. No, look. We want our business, we want our industry, we want our dealers to grow and it grow within the business and continue to profit from it. Hey, Scott, for everybody out there that's watching and listening right now and would love to connect with you, what is the best way to do so?
So easiest for me, obviously, would be if you want to just touch base with me on email. I've got a couple of them, a couple websites, obviously, too. But Scott@shopcars.com, and that's cars with a K, K-A-R-S, shopcars.com, or webuycars.com. It's Scott Brender, B-R-E-N-D-E-R, at webuycars.com. Great way to get into me. Or obviously, you can just Scott Brender on LinkedIn. You'll find me. I make enough comments on there. It's not hard. Most people, I have a very memorable face. So when you hit me, you'll remember me. It's not one of those things. And honestly, guys, I'm always open. I love open conversation about these issues. And if I can provide any kind of, input to whatever your dealership may be struggling with or just directions you want to go, I'd be happy to do it.
That's awesome, Scott. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to jam with me today. This has been a ton of fun. You have yourself an amazing day.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy Mob Podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to sign up to be a mobster at strategymob.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe.